We need to talk about this photo. This photo was from a Japanese psychic TV show called Psychic Japan. And this TV show's main purpose was to prove the existence of ghosts and spirits. The woman in the photo seems to be very pale, has her head twisted to one side with a huge smile. And eventually this photo went so viral in Japan that magazines started printing it as proof of the paranormal. But that's not the whole story. In 2009, the show Psychic Japan switched their camera to face the audience in the middle of the show, when allegedly the cameraman saw the woman in the photo behaving strangely, but no one else in the audience seemed to be reacting to her. Then the original photo was leaked, showing that someone photoshopped her. Her neck was still tilted, her eyes dark with a smile on her face. However, the neck tilt was clearly exaggerated. But then some people started feeling suspicious about the original photo being leaked, because there's something creepy about the original photo too, just less than the Photoshop version. So let me know, do you think the whole situation is fake, and people are falsely using this photo to prove that possession is real? Or is the Photoshop a way to cover up how there's actually something unusual happening here? Follow for more.
The mysterious being drifts for a moment, and all you can see is its glowing eyes and wild hair, and then it does this. Whether this was a witch or not, I think it was important to run away. My advice to this YouTuber would be to put as much space between you and this thing as possible.
This is why babysitting always freaks me out. So in 2014, Sarah DeWalt was babysitting for a new family that had just moved into her neighborhood in Ohio. The family consisted of 2 young children under 10, but when Sarah showed up that night, the parents kept talking as if they had 3 children. There were 3 sets of pajamas laid out, there were 3 bowls of ice cream on the counter, but the family clearly only had the 2 kids. So that night, Sarah and the kids are winding down watching a movie when all of a sudden Sarah starts hearing noises in the house. There were footsteps shuffling like someone else was there, and she had this overwhelming feeling that she was being watched. So she gets up to check on the noise, but then the kids turn to her and say, "Oh, that's Bonnie, don't bother her." Sarah leaves it because she's freaked out, but then later that night she goes to check the nanny cam and she sees this image captured in the hallway. She stayed up until the parents came home, but she never went back after that.
You heard of the ink entity?
No?
Henry, who was an artist, used to work on cartoons with his best friend Joey. Joey was not normal. He was so obsessed with his cartoon creations, he wanted to bring them to life. So Henry ended up receiving a letter from Joey saying, Henry arrived, but he knew something was off. The studio looked different, but there was a mysterious machine out in the open.
What was it?
It was said it could turn 2D sketches into high-quality life-size models, also known as the ink machine. So Henry turns it on, but then he was attacked by a weird entity. It was black and covered in ink.
What?
So in the novel, they describe the ink as sentient or alive. But let's talk about Bendy.
Does something seem a little off about this photo? Danielle Berner, she's at work, her kids are at school, and she gets a Ring notification saying that there was motion detected in her daughter's bedroom. It's like virtually impossible to tell that anything's even wrong with this picture. I couldn't even tell that there was something wrong with it until I looked at the bottom right of that bed. There's someone hiding under her daughter's bed. And unfortunately, she didn't catch this either, so she would end up coming home that evening after work. By the time her daughters got back from school, they were the first to find the remains of their mother. And even with this, a digitally enhanced version of the footage provided by police, they have never found who it was who was under that bed. And if you are loving Creep Time, make sure to go follow on Insta.
Whatever you see first reveals who you are, part 3. Up first is this picture. If you saw a rabbit first, it means you consider every single consequence before you do anything. And you're a very mean and straight up person. But if you saw a duck first, it means that you have rapid mood swings and you make a lot of decisions based on emotion. Next up is this picture. If you saw a young girl with her head turned first, it means that you prefer your own company rather than hanging out with a lot of people. Also, you never change the way you act around anybody you're with. But if you saw an old woman smoking a cigarette first, it means that old age scares you and you want to stay young forever. It also means you live in the moment and appreciate every single thing that happens to you, whether it be good or bad.
Cannibal facts that'll eat at you for days. If you thought Jeffrey Dahmer was picky for not eating people with tattoos, Venezuelan serial killer Dorangel Vargas, who ate 10 people, didn't like his victims to be overweight because he thought that they contained too much cholesterol. On Thanksgiving Day 1991, 23-year-old Omaima Nelson stabbed her sugar daddy William before carving him up and cooking his head in a deep fryer and eating him for dinner. In the 1970s, Jorge Negromonte, also known as the Brazilian Sweeney Todd, would bake his victims into pies before selling them to local townsfolk. After murdering and eating his classmate in 1981, Issei Sagawa was released from prison because of a loophole in Japanese law. Since then, he's actually profited off the crime, writing books, appearing on talk shows, and starring in adult films where he bites his fellow co-stars. In 2001, a man named Armin Maiwis posted an ad on a website called Cannibal Cafe looking for someone to be killed and eaten. A German engineer named Bernd Brandis volunteered, and after photos and videos of the incident were posted online, Armin was sent to jail, where today, he's a vegetarian. In 1904, a Swedish sailor named Carl Pettersson shipwrecked on an island inhabited by cannibals. He was captured and taken to a local king whose daughter actually fell in love with him. The two then got married, had 9 kids, and Carl became the new king.